You're listening to the DX3 PODCAST, Death, Divorce, and Dating. It's Kat
and Michele,
and we would just like to give you a heads up that this is maybe not a show for your children to listen to. Why, you ask? Why, you ask? Because,
well, we might say
asshole.
Fuck you. It happens.
Bitch. We can't say for sure. It's not always going to be that way, but it could be, so that's your warning. Welcome to the show.
Cheers.
Cheers, motherfucker. All right, welcome to it. This is our first official podcast. It's Kat and Michele. We are going to, on a weekly basis, talk to everybody about death, divorce, and dating. And it's our first show, and we want to just sort of introduce ourselves. I'm Kat.
I'm Michele.
And we are longtime friends. We are in our 40s. I'm a little higher up than she is on that.
A lot higher up.
Shut up. And, we come from a radio background and we just thought, you know what, as longtime friends, that we should sort of talk about some things that have been really difficult to get through thus far in life. And, you know, also shed some light and humor, I would say.
Well, on these topics, for sure, I think we need to look at the humor in divorce and death, and of course dating is always funny.
Yeah, it is a different beast, right? With online and everything now, like and people listening that are in our age group, you can certainly relate that it's just not the same anymore with social media and everything else. And we are going to have guests, and we're absolutely going to talk to boys because we want everyone's,
of course,
feedback on that, right?
Especially the men's feedback.
Absolutely. Like, this isn't, we're going to tell our story, but we certainly want to hear from everyone else, whether you can email us or whether, we're going to have friends on the show. And I just want everyone to know that it's not just a female perspective, I guess.
No, it's boy and girl.
Yes.
Girl and boy.
Yes, most definitely. So we thought, because we've sort of had some interesting and difficult, and I wouldn't say normal experiences, and I especially, I don't want to call you out, you freak, but you really have been through some stuff that I wouldn't say is normal, but there's certainly, people out there that have been through what you've been through. So
absolutely,
that's sort of why, because we love each other and we love to talk, we thought, hey, let's sort of dive into this. And coming from radio, it's so cool to do a podcast where we don't have to edit and be so careful, I guess,
well, that's
right?
very important because, well, maybe not. Maybe editing would be good with you and I. However, we're just, that's why we're doing it on our own.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no sponsors here.
No, there's none.
But we will hope to get some.
Just us.
Exactly. So I'm Kat. That's Michele. We're going to talk and hang out with you for an hour, but it's our first show, so we need to start at the beginning.
Absolutely. They need to know we got to start from the beginning of time.
Right. So how we met.
So, okay. Well, that's a long story, but to make it short, let's think. So an ex-boyfriend of mine worked at a nightclub, and I would, of course, go follow him because it was back in high school. And, of course, I had to be with him every minute of every day. We won't name any names. But, however, anyway, I ended up at this club, and I met who would have been Kathy's future husband. And at the time, he was, completely obsessed with her.
That faded.
Yes, he was. He was obsessed with her. He thought the world of her, and he had said, you got to meet this girl, Kat. She works at our radio station, and you guys actually look like you could be sisters. And he used to call me Baby Cat, and that's sort of how I met him. And time went on, and you guys had an event, your radio station, at the local nightclub, and bada boom, bada bang.
Bada boom.
We
yes,
met.
we did. And it was all ages and licensed. So
let's have that disclaimer.
The disclaimer there, because we did meet when you were 17.
Yeah.
It was the 90s, but you know.
Yes.
And you were interested. I was working at, it was the first radio station I'd ever worked at. It was a dance station and it was so much fun. And you ended up, you call it job shadowing, interning, really.
It was like a co-op program for the high school. Yeah. So it's funny because before I met you and I met your ex-husband, I was actually planning on going to law school. That was sort of my dream, to become a lawyer. Sorry, Mom.
We really derailed you.
Yeah, I definitely got thrown off the train tracks and run over a few times, but here I am, still breathing, still alive.
That's right. And we just really, we just bonded, and I was a little bit older, obviously, and you ended up going to college for radio as well. Yeah. And you got into it, and then you got out of it, and we've just always stayed in touch. We've always, you know,
we just remained friends. I mean, I'm pretty lovable, so it was very hard for her to get rid of me.
Michele, anyone that knows Michele, she is wildly entertaining. You never know what she's going to say or do next, and we will share stories.
And that's why I don't work on public radio anymore.
Correct. No. Yeah. She's a little dangerous that way, but it doesn't matter now. So I don't know if we're setting you up for huge things here, but
we'll see.
Yeah.
More to come.
Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, yeah, we met in radio and we've hung out and had lots of fun together.
We did. We had a lot of fun. There was a lot of underage drinking.
No.
Not
for you. Not for me.
No, not for Kathy, because she's much older, but
I was legal for a long time.
No, we did. We have a lot of fun. I learned a lot from Kathy. Like I said, I basically followed her footsteps and, you know, went on to the college that she went to, and pretty much everyone else at the radio station. It was sort of the college that was pumping out all those awesome DJs and everyone awesome in the industry at the time. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I ended up leaving earlier because I got a gig in downtown Toronto and did a morning show there, co-hosted one, until I realized it just wasn't the station for me. And then it was you and your ex-husband who got me into the station that you guys had moved from, and I did stuff more behind the scenes. And then, yeah, it was just, you guys will learn a lot of stuff went on in my life that really changed sort of, I guess, my plans and the trajectory of my life, that were traumatic. And there were things that happened before I met Kathy and got into radio, and there were things that happened after. So
this is Death, Divorce, and Dating. It is our brand new podcast that will be running once a week. And why is it called Death, Divorce, and Dating? Well, we'll tell you why. We've been through it, and we're in our 40s. And so I think what is such a sad, yet it really puts you in kind of a unique place. And I really want people to feel like they could reach out to you and talk to you about these things, because before I met you, are you okay? You're going to be okay to talk about it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. So before I met Michele when she was 17, I don't even know if you even talked to me about this. I don't even know if it came up in conversation, which I find really weird. Yeah,
absolutely.
And is it just because you needed to just shut it down?
You know what? I don't know what it was. So you and I met in 1996. So I was 17 at that time. So what she's referring to is the loss of my father. So in 1994, April, I lost my dad very tragically. He had taken his own life. And it was my first year of grade 9. It was actually... Yeah, it was the second semester. It was April 1994. And yeah, it was very traumatic, unexpected. I mean, at that point in my life, I was a teenager. I was going to high school, so I was more concerned and consumed by making friends and being popular and just starting my new life as a teenager at this new school. And, you know, and within my first year, you know, my dad had taken his life. I had found him in our home one day after school.
So this is the thing.
Yes.
beyond tragic that he took his life.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you discovered him, is so beyond.
For sure. And you know what? It's I think from the moment that happened, it took me years and years and years to really realize how tragic it was. And I think I was just so concerned. Both my sisters, I have two sisters who are about 12, 13 years older than me. Mm-hmm. They were had moved out, been married, had their kids. I think my oldest sister already had her kids. My middle sister was pregnant with her first when it happened, which was even extra hard for her because she was expecting and my dad didn't wait. So there were all these things. So at the time I was the only child living at home, and I think my instincts were to protect my mom. I think it was, oh my God, this has happened. And in my mind it was like, thank God I found my dad, because, you know, as young as I was, as naive as I was, I always thought, thank God it was me that found him and not my mom, because maybe my mom wouldn't be here. Maybe my mom's heart would have been broken. Maybe she would have did the same thing and then I'd have no parents. So for me, I think it was just, you know what? Okay, my dad's gone. And it's like this, I don't know what came over me, but it was like this fight to be strong. I went to school like a few days after the funeral, like nothing ever happened. And that's how I lived my life for years and years and years. And I obviously, yes, in my own moments, I broke down. I was sad. I would talk about it with people, but only if they asked me questions. I never voluntarily talked about it. Mm-hmm. Not because I didn't want to. It's just, I think I just programmed myself like a robot just to, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I lived all my teens and 20s. I was in a long-term relationship from the time, well, I think we figured out from 1996 to 2009. I was in a serious relationship with a guy, which is way too young to do. So anyone out there that's in their teens, don't date someone for 10 years.
No.
Don't do it.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
But now that looking back, I made these decisions and I did certain things in life because in some way, shape, or form, I was going through something. I just didn't want to admit it. I wanted people to think, nope, she's strong. Nope, she can do it. You don't need to worry about me, because I hate when people are like, are you okay? Are you okay? It drives me crazy.
But you can understand, though.
Now
you can understand why people would
100%
absolutely be worried about you and wondering why you were coping that way.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, looking back, I remember being a teenager and even in my 20s, and I couldn't wait to get married. I couldn't wait to start my life. I always was living like years ahead, and I was never enjoying the moment. I've never enjoyed the moment. And it wasn't until probably a couple years ago that I actually started living in the moment and enjoying the moment. It took me a long, long time.
That is a long time.
I didn't realize that I was doing it. I was always, I was just running ahead of my life, essentially.
So basically kind of running ahead of your feelings and not really, so you don't feel like you really dealt with things really head on when it happened, right?
I didn't. You know what? So here's the thing.
Or you dealt with it your way.
I did. And I thought that the best therapy, and this is like coming from a 14, 15-year-old, because, you know, all that experience I had.
Right.
It was psychology. No, but in my mind, I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm okay. And I just wanted people, because everybody was like, you have to imagine, put yourself in my shoes. Everybody's looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, is this girl okay?
Yeah.
And I was just kind of skipping along like, la, 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 la. Like, everything's okay. I'm going to school. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm having fun. And that's what I want you to see. And I'm good. And that was it. Did you get any counseling at the time? So at the time, okay, so I was going to a Catholic school, so we had our chaplain, and she had counseling for kids that, like, you know, maybe their parents beat the shit out of them, or this person died, or who knows, maybe they're hopped up on who knows what, whatever drug. I think when people were only smoking weed and doing, like, I don't know, bongs, or I don't know. I didn't do any of that stuff.
I don't know.
So I don't know, whatever drug was of choice back then. So I'm kind of like in a group, you know, and it's like this, you know, little Timmy's got a weed problem, and this girl, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, you don't even know what, like, I just can't even sit in this room, because to me it's like, yeah, you guys have your problems, but like they did not know what I saw, and they hopefully would never experience what I experienced.
Sure.
So I just kind of was like, screw this. You know, my family at the time, my sister was pregnant with her first child. My other sister had 3 kids. They were going through their own things. My mom was going through her own thing, and my mom's a rock. I mean, she comes from a family of 20 kids. She ran away from a farm in Manitoba, and
20 kids.
Yeah, there was like, I think 3 died, and like, I don't know, somehow, but I don't even.
Wow.
I can't keep track. We've got like, I don't know, I have like hundreds of cousins. somewhere floating around in Manitoba somewhere.
So your mom really just took...
She shut down. She's a rock. She wasn't coddled. She didn't get probably the love and nurturing like a family of maybe 2 children would get.
Sure.
So my mom was a rock. My dad died. My mom was back to boom, back to normal. Not saying that she didn't feel, and she probably did have her moments of, sadness or whatever it is she's going through of losing a spouse, but she also, I think she saw it coming. I learned that later on in life. My father struggled. He had post-traumatic stress disorder. He came from, former Yugoslavia. He was born during the war. The whole walking, to school in the snow with no shoes. That's his era. Yeah. So my own father, he went through a lot of stuff that led him to this, and he obviously had mental problems that just during the time, and there's just so much. There's so many pieces to the puzzle. Sure. I'm still learning, but yeah, so it is very traumatic. So for me, I think just growing up in my teens and in my 20s in particularly, and even in my 30s a little bit, it was just it just became normal. It just became my normal, and I just coped and was just myself. But definitely, for sure, it changed the trajectory of my plans and my life and things I wanted for myself. And I didn't even realize how much it affected me until my second trauma in my life. Right.
Yeah, isn't that so interesting? Yeah. How strong you can be, right? You can just...
It's survival mode.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like fight or flight. Yeah. And, we both had our share of counseling for different reasons. So I think that's something that we certainly encourage and we will talk about.
Absolutely.
Because it is really important. And today with the whole mental health, it's just being brought to the surface so much more than ever before.
Yeah.
And when we talk about counseling or we talk about our theories on how we felt and such, it is not because we are professionals. It's because we've been professionally treated for a very long time.
School of hard knocks.
Exactly. So, that's the disclaimer right now that we are not counselors, but we've just seen a lot, and because for different reasons. And it is interesting, though, how you have something so traumatic happen, how you do manage it, and everyone does it. Everyone has their own pain and their own situations, and they really do handle things differently. And I just remember meeting you for the very first time, and literally it was 2 years after this happened, and you were the happiest, craziest, zany girl. You still are. Yeah, you really exude such happiness and positivity, and I commend you for that, because as we will learn later in the show, that there's a part 2 to the trauma that's unbelievable. And you really are a really, really strong girl.
Well, thank you very much. But I could say the same for you. I mean, you've gone through your share of pain. And it's funny because a very close friend of ours, who I'm probably talking about, has gone through a lot of health issues. Yeah. And just, she has been served the biggest shit sandwich in life. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
And she is the first person. I remember having conversations with her even after my second traumatic experience, saying to her, I feel really bad. I think I said to her once, it was on a phone call, and I said something to her I feel really bad, crying about this.
Right.
Because A, it's something I couldn't control. B, it just happened. But you, all your life, or most of your life, have been suffering. You're in and out of hospitals. You're being diagnosed with A, B, C, and D. You're doing all these pills. You're trying to, maintain your health and keep your health. And she said, Michele, how did she say it? It was almost along the lines as of, don't ever minimize your pain. No one should ever minimize their pain. So even though, for example, using this first story of my father taking his life, to some people that's extremely, extremely heavy. It is a heavy thing.
Sure, it is.
It's just part of my life. I understand it and I cope with it, and so do my
But it's taken a lot of time.
It's taken a lot of time.
A lot of time to get there.
It might take someone less time to recover if they took advantage of resources available to them. Sure. And I think with me, I didn't, because when my family would say, Michele, maybe you should go counseling, and it was more my sister saying, Michele, you should go. I'm fine. Well, they were busy, like I had mentioned. Like my one sister, like I mentioned, was pregnant. The other one had her kids. Like they couldn't worry about me. They had to worry about their family. They had to worry about their well-being. And, my parents were typical, old school Eastern European culture. They didn't quite understand. My mom's first, instinct wouldn't be, let's call a counselor and get my daughter help.
Right.
It's just not in their DNA. It's just.
But it was also the time. It was the time,
sure.
We're in the 90s, and it was just a different time too.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense why it maybe wasn't handled that way.
No, and you know what? And I don't have any resentment towards my family or my mother. Like, you should have got me into therapy. You should have got me this. No, because it's not like I plummeted and, got into these drug-induced alcoholic comas and ruined my life by any means. I think for the most part, looking back on what I went through and the age I went through, I don't think I did, I didn't turn out that bad.
No, you didn't. You absolutely.
I didn't get in and then, I look at kids today and some of the things they're depressed or upset about, I have people in my family going through that, and I think, what the fuck have you been through? How are you this low? So maybe it's just part of my DNA is just maybe a fight or flight. My parents had to growing up.
Yeah.
They were raised poor and they had nothing and they had to fight for their lives. So maybe it's just in my DNA. I don't know. I get that question a lot though. How did you stay resilient through all that?
Right.
Don't know. Just a part of me, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, your mom did it too. I mean, she 100%. Was very resilient to get through that situation.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're very close with your mom.
Yes.
Even though maybe, I don't know how much you actually talk to each other about what happened, you definitely have a very, very close relationship. And,
for sure.
It's not offset in any way. You guys are very close.
Yeah, for sure. I think talking about it, we didn't necessarily really ever talk about it. And it's just because, I know my mother loves me. I know our family loves each other, but our parents weren't exactly the most you didn't hear I love yous in the house. You didn't get hugs and kisses. When we were younger, yes, but as we grew up, it was just, we didn't talk. And I think it's just part of the culture.
Right.
It's part of the culture. So when I was in my long-term relationship from 96 to 09, the guy that I was dating, I was actually probably closer with his mother, and I would talk to her. She was, born and raised Canadian, just more modern day parent. So I felt more comfortable talking to her about those things.
I remember that. You were very close.
Yes, and the father too. They were both, so they were sort of like a second parent. So she was like my second mother, and then my ex-boyfriend's father, he was basically my father. So I kind of grew up with those. I had my modern day parents, and then I had obviously my biological mom who, took care for me, put a roof over my head and did all that for me. But talking about those things were more with his family. And
but that's good, you did.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it was just easier because they didn't know my father. They weren't in my life at that time, and it was just easier. Maybe I felt like there was no judgment, or there was no, I don't know why.
They were a lovely couple. I absolutely remember them very well. I spent time with them because I hung out with you.
Yeah,
and they were definitely, I can see why you were comfortable talking with them. They just, they were pretty laid back people.
Yeah, they were pretty cool too.
Yeah, definitely.
So that for me, I mean, even that relationship, and that's probably one of the reasons why I stayed in that relationship so long, was because of that support.
His family.
100%. Because, yes, I have my family. My family's great. Every family has their shit. I mean, our family's not perfect, but we are a close family. And at that time, everything was, smooth sailing, other than what had happened with my dad. But yeah, I had this other family that was sort of unrelated to my family and all that shit that was going on. So it was just it was kind of like a little escape for me. And that's probably why, because as well as everyone who knows me, I mean, me and that guy broke up a million times. Yeah. We just weren't right for each other. But you know what? It was puppy love. It was like your first love. And we stayed together a really, really long time. But in the end, it didn't work out. I mean, one thing led to another. He was unhappy. I was unhappy. And there you go.
Yeah, no. And that is a very long time to be in a relationship at that age.
Yeah. And I would honestly say even the breakup, even though it was the best thing to happen, it definitely played a huge toll on me as well. That was a really tough, even though it was the right thing to happen. I mean, the way it ended wasn't good as well. He ended up having an affair with one of our friends. So that was just like another pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And then it was the loss of, I think the worst loss was losing his mom and dad. Because like I had mentioned, they were huge, like, influencers in my life. They did everything with me. If my mom couldn't make a decision on something or my mom needed help, she would say, go to them, or she would talk to them. Like, our families would spend Christmases, Easters, Thanksgivings together like we were married, and we were a very, very close unit. So when I lost him, it was actually more devastating to lose them. And that was essentially like it felt like losing my dad again, because he was my father.
I never thought about that, because you drove me crazy, as with many of your friends, the start and stop of this relationship. It was ongoing. But when you explain it that way, to understand how the connection that you had with his parents, it really does make sense why you couldn't shake him.
100%.
Yeah, I get that now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people too, because I still have friends that are still in my life, even during, I've been friends with some of my friends for over 25 years that were friends with me when I was going through this relationship, and their reaction was the same thing. Oh my God, I can't believe you guys broke up again. You broke up again. Yeah. But it was that I did care for him, but that's what I had.
I know, I get it.
So looking back, when I started going to therapy later on in life, I was like, wow, that was another loss in my life, because that's the third man that I lost that I love in my life. First it was my father, then it was my boyfriend, and then it was his father. So those, when you look back, that's what it was.
I get it.
That's what it was. But they served a purpose for their time in my life, and the breakup was horrendous and it was bad. But clearly, looking back, I wasn't giving him something. Because it led him to go off and do whatever, or maybe he was just a selfish asshole, and that whole story is it's a combination of shit.
Sure. But when a door closes, the window opens, and it is time to step into the next stage of a really difficult time for Michele. I haven't shared my stuff yet. We're getting her stuff out first because, well, it's worse. So
a really depressing one.
But you have to know that her light shines so brightly that you're very strong. You're very strong. So you got out of this long-term relationship, which we understand now. Even though you drove everyone nuts breaking up and getting back together, we understand now because you adored his family, and they definitely played a huge role in your life.
100%.
And so you finally shake this guy. He's finally gone, done.
Yes, I mean, he made it happen. We broke up a million times. He basically just had an affair with a friend of ours that we met through a friend who was married. So he decided to go with a woman with a kid. So I'm like, all right, cheers, buddy. Have fun with that. Yeah. And I mean, I was quite shocked at the time. We had a house being built. We were sort of planning our next step in life.
Right.
So, but I slowly saw it happening. So when it did, it was like, typical story. I caught them. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're a liar. I was of course I was the crazy one. But then, a couple years later, you find out they built a house and moved in together or something like that. So it's just like, what? Everybody has that story, whether it's a high school, college, adult relationship. It happens.
Sure.
And, so that happened. So that was in about 2009. So it was pretty interesting because between 2009 and 2010, I reunited with a lot of friends from high school who kind of went through the same bullshit. Years before, they had bought houses, they were dating, and then there was infidelity and all this bullshit.
So you were in your late 20s when this ended, really?
Yeah,
because you were.
Okay.
That
motherfucker took the last year of my teens and all my 20s.
Right.
So then, of course, I was 29 years old when we broke up.
Okay.
Because I remember my friends threw me a huge 30th party because I, of course, Well, I think we broke up at the summer when I think it was around July or August. It was like Rib Fest.
Yeah, that's
what I remember. Rib Fest weekend. The weekend of terror, life-changing, and broken hearts. Can't even eat a rib anymore. No? So anyway, Rib Fest weekend, my life came shattering down. And then my birthday's in February. So yeah, I think my friends, they threw a huge party for me in Toronto at a club where actually one of my friends' boyfriend insisted on photocopying my face with my phone number. And oh yeah. And,
wow.
And you can imagine what the nightclub floor looked like at the end of the night. It was just my face everywhere. Plastered for all the men who just took a gander and just said she's not my type. Left them on the floor. Footprints all over my forehead. No, so yeah, I got a lot of calls and texts over that weekend.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, so it was my 30th birthday, and I remember feeling so depressed. I'm like, holy shit. My high school sweetheart just dumped me for, a married woman who has a child who's older and taller than him. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm 30. My life's fucking over.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I should just die right now. Like, I just thought it was the worst. I was crying and I'm like ripping up all the notes he used to, send me. And oh my God.
Yeah, it's a process.
Fucking pathetic. So
No, it's not. It is a process that you have to go through.
Oh God. I even had his, he used to work in an oil change place, for cars, and I had his badge and his little picture, fucking that right then. I should have known that I needed major therapy. I kept that in a fucking shoebox. Fuck. If that wasn't a red flag for therapy, Mom, I don't know what the fuck is, because that is just something fucked up. So anyway, 2009 and 2010, I'm dating. So that's when I start the online bullshit.
Wow, you started that a long time ago.
So yeah, and that's when it was sort of just coming out, and it was weird. Everyone thought it was weird, but I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I got a computer, and I'm gonna do this. So I did, and so I went on a few dates, and I've got incredible stories. But there was one in particular. I met this guy. His name was Larry, and he was a lawyer. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with a lawyer.
Yeah.
But then I saw that Larry was not really good looking, and was a lot shorter than me. But then I felt fuck, I already made these plans. So I invited my girlfriend to come. So I actually brought my girlfriend on my first internet date.
Oh, that's not bad.
What's that?
That's not bad.
Oh, no. But of course, Larry was pissed. He probably thought he was going to get some ass or something.
Was that sort of a big thing, though, really? Is that what a lot of people were doing? We're just trying to hook up? Is that really what it came down to?
I think Larry actually was looking for a relationship.
Okay.
But I wasn't giving Larry what Larry wanted.
Okay.
So I just thought, hey, we're going to go and we're going to see this guy. So I show up with my girlfriend, and this guy's just what the hell? But anyway, he was really funny, and we kind of I never talked to Larry again, but it was just a fun thing to do.
Sure.
I didn't want to go alone, but to this day we still laugh about this guy. I don't know. He's probably still sitting at the same coffee shop waiting to get some tail. I don't know. I don't think he does too well with the ladies, but you never know. But and then years were going by, time was going by, and I ended up reuniting with somebody very special. And it was kind of funny because before I dated this long-term relationship guy, I don't really want to use names, there was another guy that I had a really big crush on, and he went to a different high school.
Right.
And one of my best friends was a guy. And anyway, I met my long-term boyfriend. I had met through this guy because they worked at this oil change place together.
Right.
It sounds just so crazy. But I wanted to date this other guy, and my best friend Buddy was cock blocking me because he wanted me to date the guy I ended up in the long-term relationship with. Okay. Which a year later, I finally gave in and was like, fuck, I'm going to date you. And then I dated him for, like I said, most of my teens and all of my 20s. And the guy that I had a crush on, we always had mutual connections, but the dots just never connected. So 2010, I'm online dating again. I'm just going out, I'm partying, I'm having fun with my now single friends. And don't I reconnect with that guy that I actually wanted to be with before I dated
your long-term guy?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys reconnected through online?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was I was online again, and sure enough, there he is. So I saw him, I recognized him, and I'm like, holy shit. And right away, I just had this urge. I'm like, I've got to message him. So right away, I message him. He recognizes me. I recognize him. and we set a date up. And so we have the first date set up, and he totally bails.
Oh.
So I'm like, Jesus Christ. So, yep, he's like, oh, I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, this fucking guy's an idiot. Like, really? So
wow.
I'm like, fuck this guy. So for some reason, we keep talking. And I think it's only because we had a connection, and he was like my first sort of like crush back in high school. I kind of gave him a second chance.
You kind of had a soft spot.
Yeah, because if it was like Larry, I would have been like, fuck you, and then that would have been done. But you know what? I gave him another shot just because there were like mutual friends.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay. So anyway, I remember our first date. He showed up at my house, and he rolled up in his cool little sports car, and he brought me a rose, and it was a red rose. And I remember just thinking, oh my God. And I remember my heart just stopped, and I was like, and I think I actually slammed the door in his face. I took the rose, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, okay,
really?
right there. Yeah. And I remember having like this feeling like, oh my God. And you know, as crazy as women are, or girls are, you're just like, oh my God, he's the one. Like, that was like the feeling I had. It was crazy.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we dated that summer, and it was great. And he fucked me over probably about 5 times. He broke up with me. He just kept breaking up with me.
What was the deal?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fucking really shitty person to date. But these fucking guys, they just want to fucking go to work. They want to just have fun, and they don't want to have commitment. And this is sort of what dating is now. Nobody wants to have commitment. So, and then that's what happened. And then what ended up happening is I was just like, screw you, I'm done. Because he actually really broke my heart. And my heart doesn't break that easily.
No.
For some of these guys. So anyway, he broke up with me for like, I don't know, the 100th time that summer. And I was like, fuck it, I'm done. And then the new year was coming. I'm like, new year, new goals, new fucking guy, screw this. So I ended up going back online. And when you go online dating, I mean, I haven't done it in a long time, but you could like change your settings to make sure you meet guys like within a certain age range and a certain distance.
Right.
So I did all that. And then I start chatting with this guy. He contacts me, and we're chit-chatting. We're having such a great time chatting. I don't even realize where he's from. And turns out the guy's in Florida.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, I'm in fucking Canada. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, because we just kind of went back and forth looking at pictures. We weren't really looking at the details, because let's face it, we really don't. We just kind of window shop, and whoever floats our boat, that's who we kind of chat to, right? Okay. And then when you kind of, get the conversation going, then you might kind of look, okay, well, Larry likes
that is weird, though, that you got connected with someone in Florida.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, like, we're kind of wasting our time. And he's like, well, no. Like, he kind of convinced me, like, let's keep talking. And I'm like, well, he's really cute. And he's got his shit together. And his profile's normal. Like, he doesn't have any, like, fucking like kittens, hanging by their tails or anything in his pictures. So I'm like, all right, maybe we'll see where it goes. So we ended up chatting. He buy a plane ticket, and he flies in and out for one date, the same day.
Wow.
Yeah. So this guy was like, his family was major religious, like Roman Catholic, which I am as well, Italian, like gentleman. So yeah, he's like, I will fly in, we'll go out for dinner, we'll spend the day, or go out for lunch, we'll spend the day together, and then I'm going to fly home at night. And I'm like, nice. Okay, if this guy's either a fucking serial killer or he's like the real deal, and just is like awesome. So I did. I picked him up at the airport. We had a date. It was like instant chemistry. It was amazing. So we dated, I think it was like, I want to say it was like October, November, December, January, February. So we were going back and forth between the end of 2010 into 2011. So we had gone back and forth a few times. I met his family, even met his priest, because apparently we were going to get married at that church. Like, he was talking engagement.
Wow.
So my last trip out to Florida with him and his family, I was there for, I believe, about almost 2 weeks. And usually, like, every day, he would message me a million times a day. We would talk all the time, chat all the time, all that shit lovers do. And the day I flew home, he didn't text me. No, I told him I had landed, and he never texted me back. And I didn't hear from him all day. So
That's
I'm like,
odd.
something's odd. But we had a great trip. But one of the discussions we had on the trip was if we were going to be in a relationship, I was going to have to move to Florida. His family owned 2 really big restaurants there, and he was sort of the oldest son, and he was the one to take it over.
Right.
And so that's where his life, and I was just working, like I think at that time I was like working an office job, which, it didn't matter it wasn't like a major career maker. So it would have been better for me to go over there at that time.
And were you open to doing that, or were you kind of not?
We talked about it, and then what ended up happening was the night I flew home, he ended up calling me later that day. We had a big conversation, and he's like, I cannot do this to you. He's like, I love you. I want to be with you. Like, I wanted you here to meet my family, and I wanted you to meet our priest, and I wanted, to see if we could build this life together. But he's like, just everything you've been through in your life with your father, he's like, you can't leave your mother. You can't leave your family. He's like, I can't do that to you. And I was like, it's my decision, but he was right.
Yeah.
And he was right. And I think I got caught up in just like the lust of the relationship and it being exciting and dating someone from Florida and moving to Florida, that he could read through the bullshit. He could see that deep down I was broken and I was getting sad about thinking of making that transition. Moving there. So he's like, I'm going to do us both a favor, and it's not easy, but he's like, I'm breaking up.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. Now, this is how crazy, things work. And I truly believe that things happen for a reason. As I was getting off the plane and I was turning my phone back on, one of the first messages I got was one girlfriend of mine saying that the guy that I had reunited with had been messaging her saying, is Michele in a new relationship? I really, really need to see her. Her birthday's next week. I've bought her something very extravagant. I'm scared to give it to her if she's with a guy.
Oh, wow.
So, because this was a week before my birthday. I think it was February 7th of 2011 I landed. And
Michelle's a Valentine baby.
I'm a Valentine baby. So, it was. I remember the date because it was February 7th. It was 1 week before my birthday. This guy had broken up with me. And and then she had basically messaged me, screenshotted the message that she got from this guy saying, like, I need to talk to her. And she's like, I don't know what to say. Like, do I say you have a boyfriend? Like, I'm not going to message him.
And it just so happens you don't.
Well, let me tell you a story.
Oh, my God.
Because I did this morning when I got off the plane, but I just got my fucking ass dumped about 30 minutes ago. So, I'm fucking single.
Holy crap.
He calls me, and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you. We need to talk. Can I see you tomorrow? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, we can. And he's like, I have one question for you. And I'm like, but he's like, I need an honest answer. And I said, okay, well, what's that? He's like, are you single? And I said, well, I have been for about 45 minutes. So, yeah, I'm a single. And he's like, okay, well, I want to come and see you tomorrow. My brother's in from out of town, so I can't come tonight. But can I come visit you tomorrow? And I said, yes, absolutely. So that was that. And then that was sort of the beginning of the rest of my life. So.
And he changed his tune and he stopped running. He kind of stuck it out at that point, right?
He stuck it out because he saw that Mama ain't going to sit still. And he saw that he knew that I had met someone else or had, heard through the grapevine, because we do have mutual friends. So, yeah, he got scared and he thought he was going to lose me. He thought I was going to go to Florida. So,
wow.
Got his shit together really fast and, figured out he had to shit or get off the pot, or he was going to lose me. So
you finally met your guy, settled down, and got married.
We did. We got...
and it was beautiful.
Yeah, we dated all of 2011. He got serious again in 2011. It took him a while for me to kind of re-fall in love with him again, because he really did hurt me, and I was kind of bitter over this guy in the States. But, he did. And then in March of 2012, he proposed.
Yeah, and you guys had a beautiful wedding in 2014.
We did.
I was the MC.
She was.
It was gorgeous. Really, really nice. They got married on the lake. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good party.
It was a great party.
People, so.
Yeah, and you had your relatives fly in. Where did they fly in from?
Oh, we had people in from Slovenia. Oh, yeah, they brought the party, that's for sure.
They were a lot of fun.
From my dad's side of the family, so it was really nice to have them, not having my father there, of course, because he had been passed for many years at that time, but to have my cousins come in from the old country was pretty awesome.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Death, divorce, and dating. It's the 3 Ds with Kat and Michele. This is our very first podcast. We are sharing with you where we're coming from on these issues, but we are starting, of course, sadly, with losing people, and sadly, this is where Michelle's story comes in a few times. So we were just talking about her marrying the sweetest guy, and finally, though, you definitely went through a lot to settle down and get married.
Yes.
How old were you when you got married?
Oh my gosh. So I believe I was 35. Well,
yeah.
I should have to do the math here. But yeah, we reunited a little bit later and got married a little bit later. I mean, that's kind of how it is these days. No one's getting married in, 19, 20, like back my sister's age. But,
right.
Her 20, 23, however, I don't know how old they were.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen so much anymore, for sure.
Everyone's more career focused and just wants to go out and have their fun and do their thing, and that's it. So,
and I highly encourage it.
Absolutely.
I really do. Get
Yes.
out there, find yourself. Don't, because, it's so sad how high the divorce rates are. And maybe that's why. Maybe people aren't focusing enough on what it should be about.
No,
but
absolutely.
Who knows?
I agree. I mean, my sister-in-law and my sister... my sister-in-law and her husband, and my sister and her husband, 2 separate couples. They're high school sweethearts, and they have extremely strong relationships, but I do find it very, very rare.
It is rare.
It is rare.
But that's good. It's always nice to hear that. And I know it's not impossible. It's just not the norm.
No, it's not.
Okay? That's what I think it is, really.
No, and we about to learn that real fast, but...
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true.
So Michele finally gets married and reconnects with a boy that she had a crush on in high school, which is so cute. You guys marry.
Yep.
And you guys were married for about 2 years.
No, we were actually married just under a year, and we were married, 1 year and 8 months.
1 year and 8 months.
1 year, 8 months. So we celebrated our 1 year anniversary. It was really exciting because when we got engaged, we actually bought a house to be built, and then he proposed a week later at the site where we pick out our finishes.
That's so cute.
It is kind of cute because it was right by the lake.
Okay.
So that's why he did it. And then, so we had a lot of exciting things happening. We had our house being built. We were planning this wedding. And then our 1 year anniversary was really exciting. We had plans. He was really, even before we got married, we were really planning on having a family. He was adamant about having kids.
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready. He was going to be going back to school to do some studies towards an apprenticeship.
Right.
So I just wanted to wait a few years, but we ended up deciding of 2016 that we were going to start a family later that year. And it was in January, a friend of mine had a kid, and it was after she had that kid, when I went to go visit her, I kind of got the bug.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm ready. Let's do it. Give me one more summer and we'll start in the fall. And that's sort of what we had agreed on.
Okay.
So we were looking forward to that at the end of 2016 to potentially start a family.
But that isn't what happened.
That's not what happened. So January, my girlfriend has her daughter, and so we were very excited. All our friends were at the hospital the day she was born, and we were all very excited for her. I kind of get the baby fever and have the conversation with my late husband that, let's have this child, or let's have a child.
Yes,
sorry.
yeah.
And everything sort of changed. My life changed. I got the phone call that, you only see in movies and you never think is going to happen to you.
Right.
And so that was March of 2016. So just a couple months after my friend had her child, I got a call from the police basically saying that I needed to get to the hospital ASAP. Something had happened to my husband, and I didn't have a lot of time to get there.
Wow.
So basically, I was right away sort of in a trance, and it was that same feeling that I had when I found my dad.
Right.
It's that feeling of, it's hard to explain, but it's that feeling of, what the fuck? Oh, fuck my life.
This isn't happening.
This isn't happening. And you almost feel like you're in the fucking Twilight Zone. Just everything, your energy, I don't even know how to explain it. There's no explaining it unless you experience it. And I don't want anyone to ever have to experience it. But unfortunately, most of us will. So you know what? For me, it was just motions. I just like felt myself like taking my dog over to my neighbor's, because 2 doors down, his best friend's mom and dad lived. And the first person I called was his buddy, because I knew his buddy would be home. And I'm like, you need to pick me up, because the police were going to send a cruiser to my house. And I did not want a cruiser, because it just was like I said, it's like that movie. Like, I don't want, because in my mind, I'm like, if a cruiser picks me up, that means he's dead. Like, I just didn't want to go through that. But it's weird that these things go through your mind. Yeah. So I called his best friend. His best friend came over and picked me up. His parents took the dog, and we were driving to this one hospital. And as we were driving, and it was really bad weather, I remember it was like pouring rain, but it was a really cold day, so it was calling for freezing rain. The roads were horrendous. And he's driving as fast as he can. And I just remember like my phone going off, and it was almost like slow motion. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the cops called me again and said, you need to now go to this hospital, which was even further away. They're like, they can't help him. They need to transfer him out. And I said, what the fuck is going on? Like,
okay, that's what was my question. So they hadn't told you what had happened?
Nothing, no. So all he said to me was, I think your husband had a heart attack. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, he was like 37 years old. I'm like, what do you mean a heart attack?
Yeah.
Now, to rewind, so this is now March 2016. December 2015, now he worked in construction, so he had pretty much the month of December off. They closed. Yeah. They closed down the site. And so the last week of December 2015, he was basically complaining about pains in his chest, numbness in the left arm. And for, him or any guy really to get to them to go to a doctor, let alone a hospital or emergency clinic, is like trying to
yeah, it's hard.
Want to choke them.
Yeah.
To the point to convince them to go. So he was going willingly. So I knew something was wrong. And at the time I worked in sales and I was on the road, so I wasn't at home. And I said, okay, do you need me to meet you there? Are you okay? He goes, no, I'm going to drive over. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I just think I need to go see a doctor. So he went to the emergency clinic. And, they did x-rays, they did an ECG, they asked him a bunch of questions. So he came home and I said, okay. And he's like, nope, everything's fine. They think it could be heartburn. They said if it happens again to go back, to the emergency room, emergency clinic. So,
and do you think they treated it that way because of his age?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So he got heartburn medication, which he had taken in the past because he had gotten heartburn medication before.
So it wasn't that abnormal?
Exactly. It was what it was. So the next day I'm at work again. I'm with my clients and I get a phone call again from him. He's like, Michelle, I'm going back to the emergency clinic. I'm getting the symptoms. So I'm like, okay, you got to go, go back. Have you eaten anything that would have triggered heartburn? Have you done this? Have you done that? So anyway, he went back. They did again, ECG, x-ray, this time a different doctor. Mm-hmm. And he's like, nope, I'm clear. They looked at everything. Everything's fine. La-di-da-di-da. So this is the end of December. So December going into January, he stopped eating spicy foods, pizzas, pastas, anything that would be acidic and would cause him.
Right.
So that's what he was doing. And he wasn't really complaining too much. So it started bothering him a little bit here, a little bit there, but neither one of us ever thought heart.
Sure.
Because all the doctors are pointing a completely different direction. And you know what? We're not medical professionals, but we put all our faith into them. So we didn't think it was anything other than what
they said it was. Yeah.
No, and one of my friends did mention oh, thank God it's not his heart. I think I still have that text, and she does too. It actually haunts us to this day. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And then I guess he was still feeling discomfort January, February, March. So he ended up going to a chiropractor because he thought, because he worked in construction and he did a lot of digging and lifting, he thought that maybe he had pulled something.
Sure.
So now the poor guy has gone to his family doctor, he's gone to an emergency clinic, and now he's going to a chiropractor to help him, work out maybe a muscle around his chest.
Wow.
That is not, that's leaving him with discomfort.
Yeah.
So we're doing all that stuff. Well, he's doing all that stuff. And then end of March, I get this call. So now I go from, my husband like working on a chiropractor for like a pulled muscle. I'm now at one of the biggest heart hospitals in our area,
right?
Because we learned that he has had a heart attack. And it wasn't even so much a heart attack. His heart basically stopped. So crazy story. I was actually at a meeting at one of the stores for one of the stores that my company owned, meeting a client, and someone had hit my car in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And so the crazy thing was, when I left the parking lot, my GPS wasn't working, so I went to my iPhone to GPS because I wanted to go to a garage to get a quote for the guy to fix my car who hit my car. Mm-hmm. To the shop. And as I was doing it, I got pulled over by a police officer because I was using a handheld device. Okay. And so this guy pulls me over, and I just said, listen, I've just had like the worst day. Like, I just got out of this meeting. This guy just hit my car. Like, I kind of had like a bad feeling in my stomach. So this is before the phone calls, of course. And
this was the day that it happened. This was the day of. So I remember having like a really bad pit in my stomach. Feeling. It was a rainy day. It was a gloomy day. And I just had like a bad feeling day. So my car got hit. I got this ticket now. And I remember I texted my ex, and I said, oh my gosh, like, worst day of the fucking year. Do you have to work tomorrow? Because sometimes when it would rain or snow, the job site would be closed the next day. So I was hoping he was going to say no work, so we could just like go for dinner, have a drink, and then just put this day behind us. Sure. And I was actually working on one of the largest deals in my career history with my company at the same time. So I had a lot of stuff going on. So I remember like I left one of the stores, after I got hit, then the cop pulls me over. I take my car to the shop to get a quote to present to the guy that hit me. Right. And then I just wanted to get fucking home. And I remember feeling like I had a bad feeling, like just a bad feeling. And I remember saying out loud, shit, things happen in 3. I ended up calling my best friend at the time and saying, I've had the worst fucking day ever. This happened. I go, I'm just waiting for number 3. And sure enough, something at work happened. Something went down with the deal that I had. And then I basically had to start, like, I had months and months of work and time and energy put into this project, and it fell apart. And then I had to like scramble up and pick up the pieces and make it kind of work. And so I was working on this, and then all of a sudden, I'm on this conference call trying to sort of fix things, and my phone's going off. And this was the police calling you.
And I didn't know it was the police because it just had like a phone number. Right. So I'm on this conference call. It's mandatory. I can't get off. I can't answer the line. And I typically, the worst, I don't always listen to my voicemails. Right. And because sort of with, anything with work, it's instant. So it's like email, text. No one's really leaving voicemails. Right. For some reason, I felt obligated to listen to my voicemail. And it said, it's blah, blah, blah police station. And then I'm like, why the hell are they calling me? Is it because of my accident? Right. Or is it because of my ticket? Right. But the police station that was calling me was not in the same region. So I was really, really confused as to, I'm like, oh, did they call like my region to like, so that's what I thought it was about. So when the cop was first talking to me, I was like almost like in a trance, like right away, just that bad. It's like my gut knew something bad. It was just a weird feeling. Before I even found out what happened, it was just something bad. It's like maybe you're just connected with people, and I don't know. Right, it's just something bad. So anyway, I'll go back. So we're in the car driving now to the second hospital. The policeman has now told me we think your husband has had a heart attack. And so basically what happened is after all that accident, after I was with the police, I was actually texting James. And as we were texting, he was on a break. And the last text I had sent him, he didn't respond. Mm-hmm. So what was happening was he was on break. He was texting me. And I guess when the break was over, he got up and he said to the guys, I need to rest for a minute. Like, I'm not feeling right. And they're like, no problem, man. Like, take your time. And as they turned away, he just collapsed. His heart just stopped and he fell, like, just as if there was no life. Wow. And he fell really hard. And they tried to do CPR on him and they couldn't get him. They called the ambulance. The ambulance was there in about 10 minutes or less. They couldn't get his heart going. And so when they rushed him to the first hospital, there was nothing they could do for him. And they had to go to a heart specialist hospital. So they drove him to the next hospital. And that's where I learned that he had almost 100% blockage in his main artery. Wow.
Wow.
So I was basically told that he could have gone at any time, collapsed, whether he was driving with me in a car, driving people in a car. Like, he could have gone any time.
Wow.
So it's almost the best case scenario, because I think if it would have happened with me, I don't know what I would have done, because I'm horrible in those situations, and being my husband at the time.
Oh yeah, it would just be surreal.
I don't know CPR, so it's hard. Who knows what would have happened, right? However, it took them almost 30 minutes to get him going. I think it was 28 minutes. So he gets to the hospital, but I don't know this yet.
Right.
So I'm told, your husband's had a heart attack. There's definitely been smaller heart attacks in the past. So there's scar tissue in areas around the heart.
Oh, wow.
So he's not going to probably be able to do his job anymore. And he was a smoker, but that wasn't necessarily a contributing factor to this condition.
Okay.
It was all genetic. So they basically said, he's going to be resting. You'll be able to talk to him later this evening.
Okay. So they gave you an idea that everything was going to be okay.
Yes. So my impression was they fixed the blockage. He's just going to have to take it easy. He's going to have to quit smoking, and everything's going to be okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
That's not the case. So what ended up happening is he didn't wake up that day. He was asleep, and they had to ice his body, cool the body, do all that type of stuff from all the trauma and all that mumbo jumbo. And it was the next day I had a neurologist talk to me, and I knew nothing about neurology. I thought, 1 minute I'm talking to a cardiologist and telling me everything's gonna be okay, and then I start having neurologists come in telling me he ain't gonna make it.
And why was that?
It's because he was without oxygen to his brain for the time period that he was.
Okay.
So I believe, if now I haven't looked at it, the information in a while, but I believe after 2 to 3 minutes with no oxygen to your brain, irreversible damage starts.
Okay.
So you can imagine 28 or so minutes.
Yeah. So he essentially became brain dead. He became brain dead.
So he was on life support. I think we had him on, I think it was March 26th he went down, and then his, I guess you could say his date of death was April 2nd, but I basically April 1st had to make the decision.
Right.
They did because we ended up, it's a longer next part of the story, but I decided, on his behalf for him to be an organ donor. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But yeah, his reason for death was anoxic brain death. So,
okay.
and that's how we lost him.
And you were 37.
Yeah.
You're 37 years old when you lost your husband.
Yep. Yeah.
So there it is. There is your story, which is not a common situation.
Not a common.
For, anyone to deal with before they hit 40 years old, to have lost their father and their husband.
No. And I think too, I know when people look at it, I look at my mother, who's now been diagnosed with dementia. And I have learned, I haven't done too much studies, but apparently this stress and trauma can be sort of triggering towards, because dementia does not run in our family.
Okay.
My dad's side or my mother's side. Now my mother has vascular, so it has to do with her arteries and everything. She's had 2 blockages where she's had to get the stent surgery. But she was diagnosed, I guess you could say, last year, but from last December to this December, there's definitely been a change. So that's just another thing we're dealing with. So, dealing with all these traumas and dealing with all these things, I truly believe that even just the trauma of watching her daughter go through what she went through, just a different way of death. Yeah. I do think that was a contributing factor towards her decline.
Right.
I really do. And
it probably brought back a lot of really difficult memories 100%, and feelings, because she knows exactly how you felt.
Yeah. So, and I do notice that over the last year, there definitely has been a decline, for sure.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
And that is something that, unfortunately, as we get older, if our parents are here, they're getting older, and you've got to kind of manage. So I always tell my parents, you better be nice to me, because I'm picking your home.
Well, that's what we're going through now, my sisters and I. I mean, part of the disease, it's their behavior. 1 minute they're saying really nice things. Sometimes they're nasty. And I'm
It's
like,
crazy.
I'm like, lady, you be taking care of your ass. So
we've got some good stuff to talk about too, about parents, right? Just a little snippet. Michelle's mom went and planned her own funeral. We have to talk about that.
Oh, we definitely.
It was a very cool process,
yes,
as you said. So we will talk about it, but. We're going to wrap things up for this week, but we're definitely going to continue the conversation about what happened with you, and we'll get into my side of things next time, and that's stepping into the divorce section of life. I've got a few tales to tell on that. So that's what we're going to do. But it is Kat and Michele. It's Death, Divorce, and Dating, and this is our very first podcast, and we hope that you guys will enjoy and continue to tune in every week.
All right.
Okay, we're going to go now.
Been a slice.
Let's going to go have some wine.